So this past weekend, we had a really kind of a fun and interesting thing happened to us while at the racetrack. So Eli and I were trying to figure out how to get this thing kind of dialed in. And we've struggled over the last several weeks trying to figure out how to make this car faster, how to make him faster. And we struck up a conversation with another family, and part of that family is a gentleman who actually helps them set up their cars, and that's actually part of his job and kind of what he does. And he actually used to race this very same chassis and was very familiar with the manufacturer. So him and I started talking, and he shared a few really cool tips with me and some tricks and some different things that I really didn't have any idea about. I was like, this is so cool. Thank you so very much. And he said, when you go out for your heat or practice, I can't remember which one it was, he said, I'll watch. And I'm like, dude, that'd be awesome. And I'm like, if you want to watch and see what we can do better, what the car's doing well. And I'm thinking car, and car. And so the whole time, that was my entire focus. And so after Eli went out, I waited till a good time and I approached him and I said, hey, what did you see? And he said, car looked good. He goes, but you're missing something. He goes, Eli's not focused enough. And I said, okay, well, what do you mean? Because I'm watching him and, and there's a way to kind of drive around the track that's a specific line. You go really high to the wall and then you come down real low in the corner into the apex of the corner, and then you shoot back off up to the wall. And the closer you get to the wall and the lower you get to the apex, the better. But there's another piece to that is actually super, super critical. Now, Eli and I have been working on this particular piece, but it is something that we haven't really focused on all that much. And he said his hands are too busy. And I'm like, well, okay, I get that. And Eli, every time he comes out of the corner or he's a little bit loose and his back end kind of wants to come out from under him, he'll do this, kind of like how we would even drive a car. If you feel like you're sliding, you sort of turn back and you're like, oh, I don't want to slide. And you kind of do this. Well, these little race cars hate that. They like it to be stable. And so when you come up out of the corner and you're sort of turning into the wall, you have to keep your focus and you have to keep your hands steady. So if you watch these kids, it's fascinating to watch because they're going around in circles and all they're doing is turning the wheel like this much. Just a tiny little bit. They're just ever so inch. And sometimes, depending on the track, they don't actually even turn the wheel or straighten out. They just keep it turned. And it just is like this. And they're super smooth because they're focused. And so I brought Eli over to him and he told Eli, like, listen, and he explained the whole thing. And Eli's like, okay. And he gave him a few tips and tricks. And after his final race of the day, he came off and said, Dad, I did what he said. He was super excited and he was faster. His car looked better. It performed better. He raced better. Everything about it was better because he was focused on what he was doing. And so I started thinking about like, what do I want to share with this week's message? And I got to thinking about focus. And I have long said this, and I've said this probably 1,000 times, and I'll probably say it again right now, is that what we often do as believers is we stick Jesus as a part of our lives rather than a center of our lives. And another way that I could say that is that we often don't put Jesus as the focus of our lives. We allow him to be just something that's sort of out there, but we're not intently focused. And sometimes when the littlest thing throws us off, when the smallest disruption in life throws us off our path a little bit, financial struggles, job struggles, family struggles, parenting struggles, just social struggles in general, something in the house breaks, a financial difficulty pops up that we didn't expect, or God calls us in a different direction that we just didn't expect to happen, or our kids are not kind of going down the path that we thought they were going to go down and it's not exactly what we wanted, that we kind of go, gosh, it's throwing me for a loop. I don't know what to do. And you start to oversteer and you overcorrect and you're like, and you get all busy and you lose focus. And that's what I want to talk about today, is our focus. Where is your focus? And I want to share a quick little story from Paul. And it comes from Philippians. And in his letter to the Philippians, Paul is in jail. He's in chains. And part of a lot of his letters is Paul's just sort of constantly trying to preach the gospel, but kind of also on the run a little bit, where he's either in jail or he's being pursued or he's on trial or something's happening where Paul is not necessarily in what we would consider a comfortable position. And so we kind of look at it like, this just, gosh, how does Paul do this? And man, could I handle this? What would happen if this happened to me? And we don't quite know how to take it. But what's so encouraging about the way Paul, especially in the letter to the Philippians, is how do we maintain focus and how do we maintain joy even in the midst of trial? And this is what Paul says at the very beginning as he's sort of addressing the Philippian church. And he's telling them, hey, I give thanks to you. Chapter 1, verse 3, I give thanks. I am so thankful for you. I'm thankful for what you're doing. I'm thankful for how God is using me in your lives and how he's using you for all the kinds of things. He's thankful first and foremost. And by the time you get to verse 12, he says, I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that what has happened to me has actually advanced the gospel, so that it has become known throughout the whole imperial guard and to everyone else that my imprisonment is because I'm in Christ. And most of the brothers have gained confidence in the Lord from my imprisonment and dare even more to speak the word fearlessly. Paul is absolutely laser focused on what he is to do. He is focused on his mission. He is focused on Christ all the time. And I think that's fascinating. I think sometimes we look at it and go, that's Paul. It's Paul. Of course. It's Paul. Paul's this giant. He wrote Romans, guys. Half of us don't even understand everything that's in that book. It's so deep theologically. He traveled everywhere. He was the Jew of Jews, super smart, highly regarded, turned into Christ's follower. He's the guy. He might be the kind of goat of Christianity. You could look at all these pastors and great people. This is Paul. This is Paul, right? But just because it's Paul doesn't mean that we shouldn't follow that exact same example. He tells the church, follow him as he follows Christ. Follow his example. Do what he does. And what does he do? He remains absolutely focused. And because of his focus, he has encouraged others to be just as bold and fearless as he is. And it's funny because we had the opportunity this past week to go to one of my favorite churches, to hear one of my favorite pastors, Passion City Church and Louis Giglio, and just a tremendous worship time. Just really cool to kind of just be there, just be welcomed and just sort of just be in the mix. It was really, really cool. And Giglio was finishing up a series on Revelation. He was talking about just sort of the idea. He's finishing it all up and just sort of painting a picture of like, hey, listen, everything in Revelation points us back to the coming of Jesus, and everything in Revelation points back. Jesus is on the throne and Jesus is in charge, and it's all going to come back to Jesus, and the whole thing is about Jesus, and it's all Jesus. And it was really, really cool. But the one thing he came back to was, because we have this knowledge, because we have this truth, what do we then do with it? And it hit me, because he said, and he used this idea of, we have this gold in our pocket that, we get in front of the throne, into the throne room of grace in front of Jesus to say, hey, and he's gonna be like, you dude, empty your pockets. What do you got left? And we're gonna be like, oh, I got all of this gold that you gave me to give away, but I kept it all. That's the gospel. He's given us salvation, given us the gospel, given us himself to give away to other people, and we hold on to it because we're too afraid, we're too bold, or we're too disrupted, or we're not focused enough, and we're so locked in our own little tiny microcosm of a world. Please don't disrupt anything else going on in my world, please, because I need it to be consistent, I need it to be comfortable, I need it to be everything that I need it to be, so that it's good and I'm happy. And we stand before the throne and we empty our pockets and go, look, I got all this stuff. And he's like, dude, I gave you all this stuff to give away, and now you're bringing it back to me. That's completely worthless now. You've got gold in the city of gold, and it doesn't make any sense. Instead, we've got this wonderful thing on us right now that we need to give away. But we can't do that unless we're focused. And we can't, that means being focused means that even in the midst of the crazy, even in the midst of an election cycle that there's a ton of uncertainty, even in the midst of a world that sometimes our financial future is just completely up in the air and we don't know what's going on. Well, we don't know what the future of our kids is going to be like, and we don't know what our own future is going to be like, and we don't know where our career is going. We don't know, and we don't know, and we don't know, and we don't know. But what we do know is that Jesus is in control, and that he has given us a mission to go out and preach the gospel at all times and use our words. Paul was focused. Paul was absolutely focused. And he even goes on to say that to be sure, some preach Christ out of envy or rivalry, but others out of goodwill. These preach out of love, knowing that I am appointed for the defense of the gospel. The others proclaim Christ out of selfish ambition, not sincerely thinking they'll cause me trouble in my imprisonment. What does that matter? Only that in every way, whether from false motives or true, Christ is proclaimed, and in this I rejoice, and I will continue to rejoice, because I know this will lead to my salvation through your prayers and help from the Spirit of Jesus. My eager expectation and hope is that I won't be ashamed about anything, but now, as always, with all courage, Christ will be highly honored in my body, whether by life or by death. Could you be any more focused on the gospel and on Jesus? So here's the question today. It's the question I've been asking myself all week, in fact, all day today, is this: am I focused? Or is something stealing my focus? Is it finances? Is it the kids? Is it, we're in the middle of Tennessee and doing the next thing, and I'm so focused on even just getting stuff done that I miss a conversation that God puts in front of my face? Am I so focused on making sure that the trailer's cleaned or the car is ready or whatever that I miss a conversation that I'm supposed to have, or I miss an opportunity? Am I so focused on other things that I miss the mission right in front of me? What's that for you? Are you so focused on the promotion? Are you so focused on your kids' sports, travel sports and soccer and everything else? Are you so focused on even serving at church that you miss what God is actually asking you to do? Are you so focused on the worries of life that you forgot to trust God to provide for that, even when it doesn't feel like he is, because maybe it doesn't match our expectations, because maybe he's trying to do something? What is robbing you of your focus? And how do we get back? I think the easiest thing that we can do is get back into the Word and say, okay, God, I'm going to put my focus here, and to constantly remind ourselves to put him at the center so that we can actually focus on him. Because that's what he's asking us to do. So that way, nothing else around us should ever impact our faith. Nothing that goes on in this world should ever cause us any sort of trouble in our faith. Satan is going to try so hard to get us off track. But if we are focused and we keep our hands steady and just let it go. God can do incredible things in your life. Don't hold on to it so tight that we get ourselves all out of control. So it's that simple. It is that simple. I would encourage you to go through and read the entire book of Philippians. It's an incredible read, and I think you'll enjoy it. I am going to post also a Devo guide to go along with, and hopefully you can kind of get a bigger picture, ask some great questions, and do some really cool things, and just dive in deeper and explore. And as always, if you enjoy these quick little messages, and you please share them, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and give it a like, and all those things that you're supposed to do. But most of all, share this with somebody. Share it with a friend, share it with a coworker, share it on social, whatever you want to do. But we would love to be able to impact more and more people. And if you haven't thought about it before, we would love for you to jump on. We are still looking for 250 people to jump on at $50 a month. It's that simple. It's low-hanging fruit to really help us take not just Jesus to the racetrack, but take Jesus to the nations everywhere we go, everywhere we travel, to continue to have great conversations, to continue to build content to reach people, to continue to do all the things that God is asking us to do so that we can continue to step out in faith and do the thing that He's asked us to do, is even though it's scary as heck at times. But we need help. We need our community to do all of those things that God has asked us to do. So we appreciate the support, appreciate everything you guys are doing, appreciate the views and the likes and all that stuff. And leave a comment, let us know what you think, and we will see you guys soon.